Now, our team of meteorologists continuing to monitor severe weather.
And we have several crews in the field and Johnny Rollins in the air tracking the storm from an overturned semi off the highway because of the winds from trees falling, ripped from the ground and falling onto homes. We have team coverage beginning now. Let's start with our chief meteorologist, Brian Busby, who's joining us now from the Weather Center. Brian?
We knew it was going to be an active afternoon into the early evening hours, and hopefully once the sun goes down, things will calm down. This is Storm View Doppler radar, and I'm going to take you on a quick tour to the area that has at least the most significant opportunity for developing into severe weather. Finally, the eastern portion of the region clearing out from Marshall to Sedalia up and down 65. But farther southwest, here's where we see another thunderstorm that's moving in. This one has prompted the National Weather Service to issue a severe thunderstorm warning. This one includes Bates County and also goes down toward that would be the southern portion of Lynn County on the Kansas side. So it is this cell that has the possibility of producing 1-inch hail, and it continues to move to the east and northeast at about 30 or 40 miles per hour. 60-mile-an-hour winds are also possible for this cell. So as we track this, as it's continuing to move away from, say, Fort Scott and move farther to the east and northeast, it appears that we'll see some other cities on the Missouri side that are in question for this area, including Hume and Howard, until about 6 o'clock. That's when the warning stays in effect. And I am anticipating that this one will continue to grow because it's right along what we call the dry line that we've been talking about all week. This will be the area that we have to really focus our attention on, at least for the possibility of more active weather. Live sweeps coming around and it's still holding together just to the south of Potosi on the Kansas side. And Johnny Rollins and Newschopper 9 is down in that direction. Johnny, let me throw it to you. What are you seeing from your vantage point? Right now, not tornadic, but still looks like a hailer.
Yeah, and you know, Storm Prediction Center talking about this moving into a more favorable area as far as tornadic development. Again, nothing like that, but we are in the process of intercepting that storm. We've kind of let it come up to us from the far south side down by Pittsburgh, and now moving to the north. That's 69 highway you may be able to see down to the right. We're south of Lacine, Kansas right now, just in some light rain. And as we pan to the left, you'll be able to see a little bit of a lighter area there, and that is where we're headed. To the right would be pretty much the core of the storm. We're still about 15 miles away from it. To the left there, that clear area, that is how we approach, and then come around that far southeast side and start looking for any kind of an indication of rising air into that thunderstorm. But concerned about this one, thankfully we haven't had any kind of a tornadic activity reported from that. But when you take all the ingredients that are in place right now and where it is headed as far as the potential for it to develop even further, it certainly is concerning as it moves into the far southern part of the viewing area here. So we will be on top of this one here, continuing southbound on the intercept from Newschopper 9. Johnny Rollins, Newschopper 9, back down to you.
All right, Johnny, we're closely watching those storms. This is the area that Johnny is very close to, and the same area that we are going to watch very closely over the next hour or two. Here's our storm system. It is still out to our west, although we've had a good window where we've seen drier skies. Even Lara saying, hey, the sun is out, but that's not a good thing, right? She's exactly right. Still very unstable air across our viewing area, and with that front still out to our west, that is going to help these storms to really fire up and potentially just explode across the southern portions of our viewing area as we're moving through the next couple of hours. So this is the target zone that we are going to closely monitor from now until sunset tonight. It includes the southern half of our DMA, and especially on the Kansas side for the short term, as we'll be watching very closely as we're working through the rest of this afternoon and tonight. So we have a 40% chance of these storms for the rest of this evening. From now through sunset is when we'll see the strongest of these thunderstorms. Large hail and that tornadic threat with that tornado watch remaining in effect until 7 o'clock tonight. So we've got crews here in the Weather Center. We've got crews in terms of Johnny Rollins in the air and also on the ground. Meteorologist Nick is very close to this storm as well. Bender, I know you're very close to approaching that line of thunderstorms that we're watching on radar now.
That's right, Aaron. We are right along Missouri Highway 2 near the town of Freeman. We're looking to the south right now, and the LCLs of the cloud deck is pretty low here. It's a completely different environment than what we were experiencing earlier in the morning. We had the sunshine that allowed the atmosphere to recover, so a more unstable environment across west central and southwest Missouri right now. Also, the wind shear is stronger here across our area, which could help these storms to rotate. Those are the supercell thunderstorms. Those are the ones we are most concerned about, the potential to produce tornadoes and very large hail. We're going to drop south probably on Highway Highway 71 to try and get out ahead of this storm and get a view from the ground as Johnny Rollins gets the view from the air. And we'll walk these storms all the way up into the metro over the next couple of hours, as we could even see a reissuance of the tornado watch to go past 7 o'clock. As you had mentioned earlier, storms likely to continue to develop east of the dry line across eastern Kansas and western Missouri. Aaron.
All right, thank you, Nick. Bender out in the field. Now, we've already had some storms wipe through our area, and they've caused major problems in Odessa.
Power still out in that area. KNBC 9's Matt Evans is joining us live with more. Matt.
Well, a lot of the damage right here in the center of town. As you can see, the power lines were snapped right off of their bases. In some parts, power, they're still working on to get it back, but all these power lines are now not active that are on the ground. Also, piles of sticks that were once 2x4s supporting a roof to a storage center, and then even things just hitting sides of buildings like this siding on this building completely damaged. A lot of trees into homes, also shingles off of roofs, sheds ripped apart. One woman was out for a walk when this storm hit. Now, the storm was on her so fast she couldn't go back to her house. Her husband went ahead to unlock the door, but she couldn't make it, and she couldn't stand up with the strong winds, so she just held on to the next closest thing.
And I knew I wasn't going to make it, so I just grabbed my arms around this telephone pole and was hanging on, and the shingles was flying off of the back of the house, and the wind was blowing. And I was afraid if I let go, I'd probably just roll clear across the street.
Now, remember that scene in Twister where they're in the pump house and they grab onto all those pipes? Well, that's where Brenda got that idea in the first place. Reporting live in Odessa, Matt Evans, KNBC 9 News.
We are glad to hear that she's okay. While hanging on to that telephone pole worked out, our meteorologists say that's probably not the best idea. They say to find a low area like a ditch if you're outside during one of these severe storms.
Now, workers out in the rain and hail trying to tow a semi-truck that went off I-435 at Shoal Creek.
Crazy video that we saw earlier. KNBC 9's Scott McDowell has been at this scene all day long. And Scott, what have you learned?
Laura Lynn, they are still at it right here. Now, we're on an overpass looking down, but earlier today we were a lot closer. We shot some video. I want to show folks at home so they can see exactly what went down here. Now, this call came in about 1 o'clock today, and that was around the time that some heavy storms were rolling through the metro. Heavy wind and rain, even some hail. Investigators telling us it is possible that that truck may have hydroplaned and that could have caused the crash. But they're also saying there's a possibility the driver might have had a stroke, and that caused him to swerve off the road and then crash down into the embankment there at Shoal Creek. Police actually had to pull that driver out of the cab of that vehicle, rush him to the hospital. We're told he will survive with non-life-threatening injuries. So at this point in time, the cleanup continues, trying to extract that vehicle from where it's at. You can see a lot of emergency vehicles are still on the scene, lots of tow trucks down there. Something that took a lot of time was the fact that they were waiting for a vehicle to arrive so they could take all the fuel and gas out of that semi. They didn't want any of that running into the waters of Shoal Creek, so that's taken some time, but it looks like vehicles are now in place to remove that semi from where it's at. And as you can see from that video, it was really crammed in there, so that's going to be a difficult and tedious process underway right now. It's been going on for well over 3 hours at this point in time. Reporting live, Scott McDonald, KNBC 9 News.
Still a very active scene there at 435. One lane northbound is closed. 2 lanes southbound remain closed. Could be another hour before all lanes are open again.
We want to go to Johnny Rollins up in Newschopper 9 HD. Johnny, what are you seeing?
Well, take a look at this picture, Laura. I believe we have a tornado on the ground south of that storm we were talking about that is to the east of Nevada now, and correction, to the west of Nevada. We are still pretty far away, and unfortunately, we're in a situation where we're just on the fringe of where we can get a signal out. I am not close enough to tell you for sure, but everything I'm seeing here is showing that we do have a funnel cloud and that we do have circulation down to the ground. The condensation funnel, not all the way to the ground, but definitely we are seeing something in that regard. So we're going to come around the south side of this storm. We're going to have a very iffy signal. You're going to have to really look at the core of this storm, and we're going to have to make some moves a little bit further to the east. We're not exactly where I want us to be, but you might let the National Weather Service know, and we thought maybe we saw kind of a hook on this storm a while ago, and I need probably our meteorologist there to pinpoint exactly where this is. It's going to be on the far southeast corner of that cell that we've been tracking
Johnny?
from from the far southeast side. So I'll let you guys take it away, continue to show you pictures, but we are seeing circulation on the ground.
Stay with
a
that
tornado
shot,
with
though,
this
Johnny,
cell on the far south side.
because now Lynn and Bates County, Lynn on the Kansas side,
Are you guys
Bates
there?
on the Missouri side, now under a tornado warning until 6:15. So, Johnny, we're going to keep with your picture. This is what you're seeing from Johnny Rollins and Newschopper 9, who's a little farther south, closer to Vernon County on the Missouri side, and trying to get in a safe vantage point. I know that the National Weather Service has seen wall cloud photographs from the chasers in that region. Now, this is just proof positive that there seems to be some lowering of the clouds, some significant rotation. This is from the storm that's right now going to converge onto the southern portion of our viewing region. That would be Lynn County on the Kansas side, Bates County on the Missouri side. A tornado warning now until 6:15. The best advice we can give you is to make sure that you are in your safe area. So for anybody who's listening to me in Bates County and also Lynn County, keep that in mind. Let me step out so we can get a decent storm track on this. As you're seeing, it looks like that is starting to lower once again. On the right-hand side of your screen, that is our storm view Doppler radar with the indication now of that heaviest of cells that's moving now to the northeast pretty rapidly. Putting a storm track on that, it does look like, as you see here, it will be impacting areas that are closer to the viewing area itself, and in some cases it will be impacting some portions of our region that have some indeed populous areas. So this is now the area from about Howard to New Home and also Butler. So again, if you are in Butler, I would take warning of this. Stay in your safe area at least until another 15 to at least a half hour or so, since it's supposed to be heading toward you right outside of the window of this warning, but I would stay in the safe area just in case until about 6:15. So we are talking about now, from Johnny's picture, a confirmed tornado that seems to be lowering. He's on that cell that we started our newscast with, and it is still having a history of dipping back and forth. Johnny, if you can hear me, since you're closer to the storm, let me throw it to you for just 1 second. It does look like, is that debris that's being thrown up there?
Absolutely, Brian. Again, we talk about this all the time, and this is one of the most dangerous aspects of tornadoes. You do see debris there, but someone who is watching this funnel may be unaware of the fact that it is reaching all the way to the ground. That is the circulation. It is backlit, one of the classic looks that we have with that clear slot back behind the tornado. That is part of what they believe that we talk about it, the rear flank downdraft that allows tornadoes to form. We are not in an area, I mean, it's very difficult where we are now. We need to go a little bit further southeast, so we're going to continue a little. I don't know if we can do that. We're going to stay where we are right now. This is actually, and I'm going to pull back and show you, kind of between two storms, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen this one kind of cut off. If you look to the left, it looks like more precipitation there as well, and then off to the right. So hopefully we'll see that storm to the left maybe cut off some of the inflow to this, and completely cut off what this tornado is fueling on. We don't see the classic wall cloud right now, although if you look to the right, and we may see this kind of forming a little further to the right, that appears to be a wall cloud. That is a wall cloud, as a matter of fact, and we are seeing rotation there. So we may be seeing this morph up into closer to the parent cell here, as we have diminishing circulation to the left, although just barely see that funnel cloud, and now you can see it on the ground as well as far as the circulation. So that is certainly enough, although it doesn't look that bad, that is certainly enough to do damage, cause injury, and even though it doesn't appear that bad from the cloud to the ground, it's a completely different story on the ground. So now if we come back to the right, going back further to the right, we'll see that, well, what appeared to be a wall cloud forming right now perhaps is not. But we do still have that circulation on the ground to the far south side of this storm. Bright sunshine south of that, but perhaps we are seeing now this weaken because of the other storm that we showed you to the left there that may be cutting off the flow. That inflow, that warm, moist air is what these tornadoes fuel or feed on, I should say, and we're hoping that that's going to be the case. It does not look as strong as it was a moment ago from the cloud, but look at that on the ground. Look at the damage, a lot of debris and a lot of damage being done. This is in a very rural area. It appears to be very sparsely populated, but still a lot of circulation on the ground. Boy, how many times have we seen this story and seen this picture where we have just barely a funnel hanging from the cloud, and now it appears as though that is even dissipated, but we still have circulation down there. So Still very concerned about this, and we talk about these storms cycling as well. This could dissipate, go away for a while, and then it'll take a deep breath and come back and do it all over again. But right now, Brian, it appears that perhaps that far south storm, we'll pull back and show you that, the one to the left, may be cutting off the inflow here a little bit. That would be great news with this already storm being a tornado producer. Back down to you.
Okay, and it still looks like this storm will likely hit toward Prescott on the Kansas side, as well as Hume eventually heading to that area on the Missouri side. So what you're seeing, Johnny, and we're going to keep your picture up there to give the National Weather Service meteorologists another bird's eye view of this storm, because it takes not only the chasers on the ground, the law enforcement agencies, the meteorologists, but also good pictures from the radar and also from you as well, Newschopper 9. So we're going to keep that going on. So as we've been talking about, it looks like it's lowering once again, and it looks like, although you don't see the condensation field in there, you certainly see the debris being kicked up at the bottom there. So this is a tornado that is moving through portions of Lynn County and Bates County on the Missouri side, Lynn County on the Kansas side. Still, we see those vortices, those little ripples, those little spins, which are still evident on the ground, although you do not see the entire funnel starting to fill in. So that's part of the reason why, although from a distance it looks like it's still aloft, if you zoom in, as Johnny just did, you can see it's definitely doing some damage on the ground. Other thing to mention, and there are, as he mentioned, a couple of other storms down there, and that's going to be part of the problem too, especially down toward Joplin and other areas. So this is not the only situation. And also, as Johnny mentioned, it's starting to get organized once again. Johnny, let me throw it back to you, since we're talking to the folks between Prescott and Hume on the Missouri side. Tornado warning, Lynn County on the Kansas side, Bates County on the Missouri side. Go ahead, sir.
And we talk about the multiple vortices. You know, people talk about how a tornado seems to hit one house and miss another, and it's primarily because most of the time there are a lot of little tornadoes inside what appears to be the big tornado. We call them suction vortices, and you can see that there appear to be little tornadoes kind of dancing around one another down there, and that is exactly what we have. Still, thankfully, we are in a very rural area. Not so thankful for those who live there, but we haven't seen any buildings get hit. We have seen a lot of trees come up, and as we said, it could be taking another deep breath here, and now we're getting some more activity, and of course the funnel appears to be down closer to the ground. I don't see it approaching a city right now or anything populated, but it's from our vantage point really tough to tell exactly what we're looking at here. We'll stay zoomed in on the bottom of this tornado, where you can see as it's on the ground that it is doing damage. The storm to the south and east of this that we were hoping was going to cut this off now seems to have kind of, I don't want to say dissipated, but it does not look like it was the thunderstorm we saw just a couple of minutes ago. So I'm not real encouraged by that. I'm fearing, of course, that we may see this tornado continue. And as we said, it seems to cycle. A moment ago it seemed to be dissipating. Now it seems stronger than ever. Back down to you guys.
Okay, Johnny, thank you. Your pictures are so valuable. And again, I think folks should be heeding the warning, especially out toward rural portions of Lynn County and also Bates County. This is a tornado warning that stays in effect until 6:15. If we can go to the latest Storm View Doppler radar with a new storm advisory out for you. This is now the latest storm track that has it heading toward Osage at 6:26. That'll be after the warning is set to expire. But as you see with the life cycle of the storm that Johnny is on, it ebbs, it gets strong, and then it weakens once again. And that's also part of the reason why this warning is going to stay in effect until 6:15, as the warm, moist air is still feeding into the system, and it does not look like it's going to leave anytime soon. And that's no great surprise, since we have been under a tornado watch until 7 o'clock. So we knew conditions were going to be like that somewhere within our watch box area, and that's exactly what seems to be panning out with this one cell. And as Johnny also mentioned, sunshine on one side of it and total chaos going on very close to the funnel itself. This is going to continue to move to the east and northeast, and so that's why we do have that fresh storm track out there, mainly rural portions of Lynn and Bates County, but it does appear that it will be moving fairly quickly to the east and northeast. There was an unconfirmed report, I think west of Rich Hill not too long ago, of a tornado that was on the ground as well. Multiple vortices, multiple spins, out of the parent system that are continuing to move through, and there's enough space between these supercells that they're still feeding in on the energy to keep themselves going. And Johnny, I'm going to throw it back to you so we can continue to update the story as to your location, as to what you're seeing. So that is valuable information for not only here, but also for the National Weather Service out in Pleasant Hill, Missouri. Go ahead.
Yeah, it appears to be a bullseye here for Hume, Missouri. If we're seeing, in fact, I think I can kind of see the city of Hume from where we are. We're certainly a few miles out here, and we have our zoom capability to get us right in there. But very concerned, those in Hume, Missouri, need to take cover immediately. Perhaps Prescott as well.
Right.
It looks like it is approaching both of those. Foster would be downstream from this too. All of you in those areas, and if you're in a rural area here, you know where those cities are, and if you're close to that, take cover immediately if you haven't already. This is a significant tornado.
Keep talking, John. We're going to try to zoom it in for the street levels to see exactly where we're talking about. Hume, as you mentioned, up to the northeast. Continue with your analysis. Go ahead. We're just trying to put up some of these cities and streets.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
Okay. And really, it is so difficult for us to tell from our perspective how many miles away we are from this, but it looks like probably 3 or 4, 2 or 3, and we are just south and east of Hume, Missouri now. So very concerned about that area. We don't see it in any populated area right now, but it is certainly tracking in the very, you know what, Brian, this is more from a south to north trajectory here as far as the path of this tornado. So
would you repeat that, please? Repeat that?
It appears to be going from south to north, not the traditional southwest to northeast. And wow, look at this. This is really wrapping up.
Yes.
It's wrapping up into a very significant tornado right now. We'll pull back too and show you that classic look of the wall cloud, the bright rear flank downdraft, that clear area indicating descending air that they believe contributes to the intensification of the rotation. And we are seeing that right now on the ground with this tornado. Hume, Missouri, Foster just to the north of that. We're going to pull on our Garmin here and see if we can come up with a couple of other cities that may be affected. But I got to tell you that certainly this is a very bad scene with this tornado not giving any indications of weakening anytime soon. Brian, back to you.
Okay, thank you there. So for those folks who are in either Hume or Prescott on the Kansas side, tornado warning staying in effect until 6:15, so that's another 15 minutes easy. Please get to your safe area. Remember the safety rules. Put as many walls between you and the outside, protecting your head facing away from the wall, so they're facing the wall, that is, so that the debris does not hit you. Because the #1 killer or injuries that are caused by tornadoes are the debris that's unleashed, that's unlatched, that's caused to go up into the air and possibly hurt you. It looks like there's another, as soon as Johnny Rollins, he's trying to rotate around. I thought I saw it look like another appendage is trying to dip down there. We've had the possibility of multi-vortex storms or tornadoes that are trying to be fed from this parent storm system, and it does look like this thing is really starting to ramp up, Johnny. It looks a little wider, a little more intense, and a little more organized as it is. But as we were talking about Prescott on the Kansas side, Hume, Missouri, he also mentioned Foster, Missouri. We're going to, obviously, because we're on the fringes of our viewing region, every once in a while get Johnny's picture and lose it. But once again, on Storm View Doppler radar, this thing is continuing to race off to the east and northeast, which is why the tornado warning remains in effect for Bates County. The confirmed tornado still now on the ground near Prescott, moving to the east and northeast at 35. And that continues to cross state line from, say, Lynn County on the Kansas side, northern portions of Bourbon into Bates County, and this is going to stay at least for another 15 minutes or so. With the latest storm track, we can now update the estimated time of arrival of this, but this is now the biggest storm that we have on radar, and we're still under that tornado watch until at least 7 o'clock for the possibility of this tornado to continue. At least the atmosphere is right for it. And then all the ingredients are still coming together, primarily east and southeast. Here are some of the other cities in mind. As Johnny mentioned, it looked like it was heading toward Foster on the Missouri side. Hume, for sure, you should be in your safe area. And he also mentioned it was heading more northerly as opposed to northeasterly. So that's another thing that we may have to adjust our storm track a little bit. Any way you look at it, if you are within the portion of Bates County, you should be on the lookout for this. That's continuing to widen. And once again, this thing does not look like it is weakening. Looks like it's getting more wrapped up and more organized. Johnny.
And right now you can see we are in some rain too. We talked that was going to cut off some of that fueling air that this tornado has, but it has not appeared to do that at all. We're having to kind of point away from that. We'll come a little bit to the right, and just a little right there, and I'll get that out of the way, and there we go. This tornado really now has, as we said, Brian, wrapped up. It looks like certainly what was a very weak tornado when it started, and they all look weak, of course, when they start, and then, of course, this has really wrapped up. Even when we could barely see the funnel from the bottom of the cloud from the thunderstorm, this appeared to be doing a lot of damage on the ground. We'll come a little bit further to the right again and give you a better perspective. We'll show you the rain I'm talking about to the left. And we're looking almost due west to this, and you can see the rain to the left, and of course the apparent thunderstorm to this tornado. A lot of rain to the right, and you will see that it's very dark, and of course what you would expect to see with a very intense thunderstorm. As we talk about a lot too, in this part of the country, typically, of course there are really no rules, but typically tornadoes trail the thunderstorm. This tornado really not in much rain right now, mostly clear skies behind it, as you can see, and probably 3, 4, 5 minutes after precipitation stops at someone's house there, the tornado would be about 3 or 4 5 minutes behind that. So that is what we're seeing right now with this tornado. Very typical, not too far from the heavy rain shaft, and probably a hail core associated with that as well. But this tornado now doing a lot of damage, and we're seeing a lot of debris down there, now partially blocked by this rain we're looking through. We told you about that, but that rain not as intense as it was just a couple of minutes ago. So whatever looked like it may be cutting off this tornado from the southeast side now just appears like it's not going to serve in that capacity at all, and we could really see this thing continue. Don't see anything right now that indicates it's going to be cut off at all, Brian.
No, absolutely not. It's going to be a problem, and it's continuing to cause problems, especially down to the south of us. So if you're just joining us, maybe call your friends who are down in Bates or Lynn County. Crossing from Lynn County to Bourbon County on the Kansas side, still moving its way into Bates County on the Missouri side. If we can go to the Weather 2 full and chroma key in front of the wall for just one moment, I do want to try to give you some of the latest information coming in here. One thing that Storm View Doppler radar can do is indicate when we have an early indication of a tornado funnel. And what we're noticing here is how many people are affected, how much of an impact it's going to have. This cell type is a tornadic one that's going to affect about 27,000 people as it's continuing to move to the east and northeast. Once again, not too far away from Walnut to the south of it, at least you're getting the torrential rainfall. But anywhere from Hume to Prescott is where we're seeing the better chances for this to really impact and move through those communities. Also, this is another signature within that same parent storm, tornadic maximum hail size 1.5 inches, so that's going to put it close to ping pong ball size hail. Also, as you see here, the probability of hail from this, and usually they go hand in hand. Larger hail means a possibility of a tornado, and that's exactly what we're seeing with Johnny's pictures out to the west. And this is still once again moving its way through Bates County, and it does look like it is about less than a half a mile west of 49, Interstate 49 in Bates County. So it eventually will be crossing that interstate, which could cause some problems too. I know that we're having a tough time keeping Johnny's picture in there, but as best we can, we're going to try to alert to those folks who are very close to going through 49 in Bates County. It does appear that this cell that you see from Johnny Rowland's picture up in Newschopper 9 is the biggest one that we have in the short term. We still have a good hour before this tornado watch is done. The hail sizes are increasing. That's another indication of the strength of the updraft, and it does not look like this thing is going to weaken anytime soon. And even in the last 5 minutes that we've been on, updating the storm track, putting new information out there and letting you know which communities are now in the path of this, it does appear this thing is going to continue to stay relatively strong as it's moving, as Johnny said, a little more north as opposed to northeasterly. Johnny, is that still the case of what you're seeing? That erratic movement, not quite what you would normally expect?
Yeah, and if anything, Brian, this appears, I don't know, I don't want to say it's taking a northwesterly track, but boy, I'll tell you what, we don't know. And if you are south of this at all, and whether it's southwest or southeast of you, you should be taking cover.
Okay, one other thing I should mention is that it does appear there's a potential second tornado. This one not confirmed on the ground yet, but once again, we always use storm view Doppler radar as our indicator to let us know which area, which part of the storm we should be looking at. And they are clustered, huddled together as supercells. And this is the second one that is moving, as we mentioned, as Johnny gave you the first alert 15 minutes ago, Foster, Missouri. This is the one very close to you. And as you see on storm view, we can give you indications as to where the computer is thinking there's a potential for it to become tornadic. And that's very close to Foster, Missouri. So we have two going on here, one toward Hume, one toward Foster, still affecting about 20,000 people. It looks like there is a debris ball, and that's something that we don't see often on radar, but that's indicating a lot of the building material, a lot of the 2x4s, the wood that's being thrown up there. The radar is showing that as a very bright